In this morning's gospel, we will hear how Jesus cleanses 10 lepers. Luke sets this story revealing Jesus' messianic healing powers near Samaria, a region and people detested by Judeans, but neighboring on Galilee where Jesus grew up. 2 footnotes to the story. The leprosy in the story is not the hard-to-treat Hansen's disease we know as leprosy, but likely one of several very contagious skin diseases. And Jesus did not cure them on the spot, but rather their healing happened away from him while they were en route to the priest to be declared clean as Deuteronomy requires. The point of the story is not the miraculous healing of the 10, but the expression of thankfulness by the one. The 3rd footnote, the Greek verb at the end rendered, has made you well, really means has saved you from destruction and has made you whole. The 9 were cleansed of their skin disease, but this one, for his thankfulness, has been given wholeness.
The Holy Gospel of our Lord Jesus Christ, according to Luke.
Lord.
On the way to Jerusalem, Jesus was going through the region between Samaria and Galilee. As he entered a village, 10 lepers approached him. Keeping their distance, they called out, saying, "Jesus, Master, have mercy on us." When he saw them, he said to them, "Go and show yourselves to the priest." And as they went, they were made clean. Then one of them, when he saw that he was healed, turned back, praising God with a loud voice. He prostrated himself at Jesus' feet and thanked him, and he was a Samaritan. And Jesus asked, "Were not 10 made clean? But the other 9, where are they? Was none of them found to return and give praise to God except this foreigner?" Then he said to him, "Get up and go on your way. Your faith has made you well." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise
to you, Lord Christ.
Please, be seated. I think if I could pull out one sentence that is so important this morning, it is, as they went, they were healed. As they went, they were healed. That it takes movement in a direction that maybe we didn't plan, but that God is out in front of us to find out the strengths and the gifts that God has given us. A long time ago, when my hair was almost black, I was a young development officer at Culver Academies. Anyone heard of Culver here? Okay. Military School, Midwest. I was 3rd generation, you know, all of us went for various reasons. And I was, you know, young, female, so I was supposed to kind of take care of some folks. So I went into an alumni gathering once, and there's this woman sitting all by herself. Like the whole party's over here, and I said, okay, I know what I'm supposed to do. Go over and see this person. Her son was a student. And she spoke for just a minute about her son. And then she talked about how she had recently been moved from the hometown that she had loved. That town was ironically named Newcomerstown, Ohio. How big is Newcomers? Anyone know? Pretty small? I don't know, pretty small. And she talked about she'd grown up in this town, she loved this town, everything she knew was there. Her identity had been there. And they'd moved because of her husband's job. And I said to her finally, so how long have you been away? And she said 4.5 years. And I thought, I also thought there's nothing I can do here. 90% of humanity just needs a good listening to. Dear God, help me with that. And I just felt so bad for her. And yet the whole thing seemed ironic because her son was at a boarding school. A boarding school out, as they say, behind the corn silk curtain of Indiana. You don't just wind up there for vacation. It's out in the middle. It's kind of an exile, but it's a great exile. I know that sounds a little crazy, but most of us that were there were fairly strong academically, but not everybody was there because they were the best kid in the world or had a perfect home. At least 16% had divorced parents. Some had some struggles at home. And yet, here we all were in the middle of Indiana. And we were finding new gifts. We were finding our strengths that maybe couldn't be realized in Old Comers Town, in the place where we had been from. I know that if I had not gone there, for the same reason that my father had gone there and his father had gone there, I wouldn't be standing in front of you today. I probably wouldn't be a priest because I really think that my faith was developed and strengthened there in a way that maybe would not have happened at home. And so, while many of us thought at the beginning of our lives, or beginning of our time there, that we were sent and exiled, my class sobbed like babies when we left. We'd had a really good, tight group. And some folks have gone on to do some pretty powerful things. Raising up orphanages in Haiti, treating cancer. One is a senator in Alaska. You name it. So exile this morning. Exile in the readings. And yes, even in the gospel, we have 10 folks in need of healing, and they're right on the borderland. And they're roaming. They've been sent away. They've been roaming. And Jesus finds them. We assume, we interpret in the reading that 9 were Jewish and went to the priest, and the one who was the Samaritan stayed and thanked. We don't know. They all could have been Samaritans. We don't know. But the point is, they're all out there on the border, on the boundary land. They all encounter Jesus when they're out there. And they're all healed. It doesn't say that those who were not grateful were not healed. After all, they did what they were told to do. Who knows where they sent or how they said their gratitude? We're aware of the one coming back. And we're also aware that as they went, as they moved, they were healed. It took that movement to have the healing. So now I'm going to turn toward the Old Testament lesson. here we've heard for a long time Jeremiah saying, you know, it's a disaster, it's a disaster, it's a disaster. You messed up, you messed up, you messed up. And now we hear something a little different. It's, okay, friends, here's reality. Here's what has happened. You are being sent to a different place. And you get to do something that you never thought you'd be doing. Because you see, before this, gods were land gods. So you had the god of Franklin County, you had the god of Licking County, you had the god of Athens County that looked kind of hippie, all right? But gods had a zip code. And here comes an entirely new concept of God and strengths that folks didn't know that they would need, didn't know that they would have. And what came up was true Judaism. Israel may have been not the same at all anymore. But this faith becomes something much bigger and much different. All of this exile had happened because folks were trying to do, you know, pay tribute to so-and-so. No, I don't want to pay tribute to so-and-so anymore. I'm going to, ally myself with this king. Oh, wait, that didn't work out. And now we're all going to Babylon. It's just a complicated mess. It's more like what we would see on the news every night. And all those sort of 12 tribes that have been separated out, now they're all sort of mushed together. And over a course of about 10 years, a little longer, these folks wind up in Babylon. What comes out of that? Oh, all these stories about God and how God works and how God has helped us. We better write this stuff down. We better put it together. Guess what comes out of that? Torah, folks, first 5 books of the Bible. We better figure out a way of worship because, oh my goodness, we're finding out that our God doesn't have a zip code. Our God travels with us. Our God is with us. And I do believe that as they were on their way, they were healed. Healing started. And so out of these sort of big, extreme stories, if you will, we look at our own lives. All those times that we are sent away from newcomers' town, all those times where we feel really comfortable where we are, be that geographically or professionally or, And here we are, and man, God comes up one more time and says, you thought you were settled. Boy, do I have a gift for you. And in the movement, as you go on your way, you will be healed. So I ask us in all of our lives to look at all of those times when we are shifted, we are loosened up a bit. Why those things happen can be all kinds of reasons, but stuff happens. We look at our lives and say, okay, God, this wasn't what I had in mind. But for all that has been, thanks. for all that will be? Yes.